drinking healthy today. What's going on, everybody? This is Chris Classic, dropping a car vlog while drinking water. Nobody tells you today, remember that God loves you, Christ loves you, and I love you as well. God is good, and I'm praying for you guys. I know this is a week of the holidays. Sometimes this is the best times for people, and sometimes this is like the worst time. Like some people just despise it because of memories of people that they loved, or sometimes just the darkest time. So I am praying for people to get out of that darkness or the rut and let God and let Christ be that light to guide you into some great people and to understand that you are a great person yourself. Make sure you subscribe to the Take It Home podcast, where I talk about professional wrestling topics, and I put up my matches as Classic Alpha, a professional wrestler of 13 years. Man, I went to practice yesterday, and man, I'm becoming back to my old self, and I like that. I think the past few years of not going to practice, I've just been okay with what I am as a powerhouse and as a superhero to save wrestling. But when you can add more to that, and then you can do things that you used to do that you knew you can do, and then it just comes back like muscle memory, it is a big thing. Last week was a humbling experience. This week was I'm getting everything back that I shouldn't have let life take away from me. Make sure you also subscribe to C3 Ultimate Wrestling. That is me and my wife's professional wrestling company. We got all our matches from this year and previous years as well, as we are also getting ready for next year, February 21st, 2026. Big Business, BIG Business, Dyer, Indiana, Harold's private venue. Tickets are on sale now on Eventbrite. They are $5 off on Eventbrite, but there'll be $5 more at the door bars. We thirst people. We thirst people. RPG is definitely in the building, and I definitely have to talk to you about that. I think we'll talk about it. We're not talking about it now. So shout out to y'all. Choose between two wrestlers, Vader and Ultimate Warrior. Okay, that's my first one. Okay, so now, excuse me, guys. On Facebook, I had asked a lot of people to make me choose between two wrestlers. So I was like, I know a lot of wrestlers who do content. They do the same thing for TikToks, YouTubes, and stuff like that. So I wanted to do the same. So I did want you guys to pick two wrestlers, and I will choose between those two and why. So the first from Kit Kat, shout out to you. You said choose between Vader and the Ultimate Warrior. This one is actually kind of difficult to me because I grew up liking both of these wrestlers. I thought at one point Vader was so unstoppable, especially with the Mastodon stuff and teaming with Harley Race. But then he went to WWE, and they kind of I felt they wasted it. Politics, egos, and all of that stuff. I remember like when he faced Kane, and then he wanted to quit, called himself a fat piece of you know what. Didn't like that. And then you have the Ultimate Warrior, who basically was supposed to be the new Hogan. Basically, it was supposed to be a torch being passed, but obviously some stuff between ego and certain things, and then also having controversy surrounding him almost all the way until his death. If I had to choose between both guys, so who was I a bigger fan of? I would say Vader. I would say Vader because I did love that Vader was a big guy. He was strong, but he was also agile. And a lot of people will look at wrestling and they'll look at somebody, hit somebody, be like, oh, that's so fake. Vader looked like he hit you so hard that you didn't want to wrestle. But like I said, I was a fan of Ultimate Warrior, but I think I'm going to give it to Vader. I love the Mastodon stuff. I love that big mask that he used to come out with, and then when he put it down in WCW or Jim Crockett Promotions, whatever you want to call it, it would blow steam out. Like if I was a kid and I saw that for the first time, I would have lost my mind. Some of these matches that he has had was just so intense. He wrestled, was it Stan Henson, and got his eye knocked out of its socket. And he literally put his eye back in his socket and finished the match. Man, come on, man. What are we doing? Vader was that guy. And I felt that he should have been a world champion multiple times in WWE. Rest in peace to Vader. Also, rest in peace to Ultimate Warrior. Doink or Dink? Dink was the short one, right? Choosing Doink. Because without Doink, there would be no Dink. Doink was a big thing back in the day. Y'all remember the WrestleMania arcade? Like, they had Yokozuna, they had Bret Hart, Razor Ramon, Undertaker, Lex Luger, Doink the Clown. And I'm not laughing like, oh, Doink doesn't deserve it, but still, it's just, when you have compelling stars like that and Hall of Famers all together, that just shows you how much of a presence that Doink the Clown had in a video game. And that's still a great fighting arcade game. Pin down, pin down. That right, yeah, it was just like Mortal Kombat meets wrestling. And I thought they did pretty good with that. Very fun game. But yeah, Doink was definitely in there. Some people were actually scared of Doink because some people have a fear of clowns. So when he was doing bad stuff, people was really more scared of him and stuff like that. So still, I remember when they used to play the replays of his moves, like a leg drop, they'd play, like, act like he sat on a whoopee cushion and have a fart noise and stuff like that. So Doink for sure. Doink was actually good. I forgot his real name or whatever, but I know that he did have a Dark Side of the Ring episode of the original Doink, and it was talking about how he didn't like that they gave it to somebody else to use. He tried to do things on the independence and stuff like that. He tried to do certain things and it just wasn't work. Very controversial, and unfortunately he did pass. But there was like 3 other people who like was Doink the Clown. It was like 3 other people, but he was like the first. So rest in peace to him. Ooh, that's a good one. Oh, there's a few more. Hold on. All-American Lex Luger versus the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes. I was not that big a fan of Luger. I wasn't. I was not a big fan of Luger. I remember the Lex Express. I just wasn't a big fan. Like, I liked him, but I wasn't a big fan. And I think I watched the majority of Luger's work when he was in WCW. So he was teaming with Miss Elizabeth, and then he had the mirror and stuff like that. I do think that was when he was calling himself the Total Package. I could be wrong. But I just wasn't that big a I wasn't that big a fan of Lex Luger. I just wasn't. Like, to me, like, he did his job as a heel in WCW because I didn't want to see him with his little ponytail and him posing in the mirror with Miss Elizabeth and stuff like that. So clear the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes. The American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, clear. But I will say I am glad to see Lex walking again, because he was bound to a wheelchair for a while and stuff. You know, DDP, who was a godsend to wrestlers and stuff like that, who was helping people and other people who are dealing with all kind of chronic pain about never walking and doing things, and he's helping people turn their life around. So shout out to DDP for that, and I am glad that Lex is able to stand again. Lex Express, it didn't go well because that was another wrestler that they was trying to push as the next Hogan, or trying to pass the torch to, and it just didn't work. Y'all had him body slam Yokozuna. The body slam was alright. It wasn't that impressive of a body. It was alright. It was okay. They had this man come in through a helicopter. The helicopter landed and he came out. It was a big deal. They tried so much with it, and it just didn't work for him, unfortunately. And he wasn't great on the microphone. Like, you cannot sit here and try to have like somebody that's supposed to be the next heir, the next Hogan or something like that, and then the guy cannot cut something on the microphone. Now, Ultimate Warrior was a little different because even though he had some of the purest bumps in his nose, Hulk Hogan, like, he sounded crazy, he sounded dark and demented, but as a kid, you like that. He just may have face paint on. Of course he's crazy. He's the Ultimate Warrior. You know what I'm saying? So those kind of things worked for Ultimate Warrior outside of vices and other things that wanted more money. So I will say that Cody Rhodes landslide. Ricky Steamboat or Jake the Snake? Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. Jake the Snake. I like Ricky. I liked when they had him dressed as an iguana because he was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Y'all know what I'm talking about with the flamethrowers. I liked him. He had some of the best arm drag ever. They look like they hurt. I remember he did that run with was it Roddy and Jimmy Snuka. It was like 3-on-1 against Chris Jericho because Jericho was talking about the legends and stuff. Roddy was in bad shape. Snuka was in bad shape. Ricky still had it. The arm drags. He did a dive out spot. He did drop kicks and stuff. Like, that just made me love Ricky Steamboat even more. The crowd saying you still got it. And then I remember that Ricky, they did a program with Chris Jericho. He was like, hey, thank you. I didn't think that I'd be able to go back in the ring and wrestle in front of thousands. And then Jericho still dissed him. And then they had another match and Ricky lost. Ricky did great. Ricky was older, obviously, but he still was in there. He still cared for the business. I do know that his son was in like the FCW for a little bit, but I guess it just didn't work out for him. But Jake the Snake. One of the most iconic moves in professional wrestling, also one of the most used outside of the super kick, is the DDT. Exuding charisma and having a darkness and a toxicity to it is something that Jake the Snake had, right? Coming out with the snake. Do y'all remember when he had the snake bite Randy Savage? That was crazy. He had Andre the Giant running crazy with the snake and stuff, and then some of his promos, even about some of the demons that he has fought and things like that. The way he put it together, you know, DDT. People still don't know what DDT stands for. Some think it stands for Drop Dead Twice. Some people think it means Damien's Dinner Time, because that was the name of his snake that he had in the bag and stuff like that. Like, obviously, a lot of his dark times have been documented, unfortunately. But still, I do think that he is very iconic. I remember when he did return, when Raw did like a retro episode, and people lost their minds because it's been a long time since we've seen him. I know he's had a lot of health scares. The man can still cut it on the microphone. Like, he was managing what's his name? The Murderhawk Monster, Lance Archer on AEW. I know he shows up from time to time. Like, the man is pretty cool. The man is pretty good and stuff like that on the microphone as a wrestler and even as a performer. His DDT looked like it was a finisher. Now everybody knows that somebody's going to kick out of a DDT. But the way he did it was just cool. Another thing, since he was Jake the Snake Roberts, he used to slither on the person like he was about to pin him. I used to think that was the craziest thing too. So I have to give it to Jake the Snake Roberts. I have to give it to Jake the Snake. Roadblocks. We talking about wrestling. Yeah, Lex Express. Coco Beware, Kofi Kingston. I grew up more of a fan, especially being younger, of Kofi. I watched a lot of Coco Beware, some of the stuff later, especially when I was watching the On Heart documentary, because they were teaming together. I forgot their name, but it was crazy. It was crazy. I don't want to say, I don't know if it was High Octane, I don't know, but still, they did a lot of top rope stuff and everything like that. And Coco Beware, you know, he's been on a lot of interviews and he's spoken about defending himself and fighting people for people trying to disrespect him and stuff like that. I know he's in the Hall of Fame. He's been in a lot of the WWE games and stuff like that. So shout out to Coco. A lot of people give him his flowers for being like one of the few wrestlers that had television time, few black wrestlers, excuse me. But I got to give it to Kofi. I got to give it to Kofi F. Kingston. I got to give it to this guy. I think this guy can still wrestle as great as he did years ago. I think he could do almost every move if he wanted to. Every move and stuff like that. Kofi's song, SOS, I hear you shout that. That song's still fire. They gave him an accent, and then he lost the accent and stuff like that. The stuff that he did with the New Day, even having like tag team success with Evan Bourne and R-Truth, and it was another one I was about to say before the New Day. Like, he did good stuff. Obviously, they believed in him when he went against Randy, but then he messed up with something, and then he just, I don't want to say obscurity, but still, multi-time Intercontinental Champion. I think the guy did great. I think people loved him. They loved his moveset and stuff like that. Man, and him and Randy, that thing should have been hotter than what it was when they ran against each other the first time. I know, like, Randy was upset that, like, Kofi didn't set up for the punt kick, and that's why Randy was saying stupid. But still, the stuff that they did with the New Day, how everybody hated the New Day. I remember y'all. Y'all hated the New Day. Y'all said New Day sucks. They said, all right, yeah, we about to sell New Day socks. Y'all saying socks. They diss New York. They sung the Jay-Z New York song and said New York was booty. Oh, yeah, we said booty. Mind you, they are in New York talking about New York, and the crowd loved it. Yeah, they did great. And then after that, him going into the Kofi Mania thing because Mustafa Ali got hurt, and him being in the Elimination Chamber and showing out, and everybody wanted Kofi to win so bad. He fell short. Kofi Mania showed up. He started coming out with his family. The storyline, man, the storyline for that was good. Like the New Day, Big E and Xavier, they had to literally go through a tag gauntlet to make sure that Kofi could get his WrestleMania spot because they really didn't want him to win. It was like the powers that be didn't want him to win. Bryan Danielson didn't want him to win and stuff like that. And it was so good because even at the end of that tag gauntlet, the Usos came out, and Big E and Xavier was tired, and the Usos was like, you know what, we believe in Kofi and stuff. Y'all done did great. We give up. I'm like, man, it was great, man. Him winning was very good, and it was a very dope moment. I remember watching it with my homie Juice and my homie Aaron. Shout out to them. And I remember when he actually beat Bryan Danielson, formerly known as Daniel Bryan. I was just so happy, and they kind of understood because Kofi winning that belt was synonymous with them as Eddie beating Brock, because it was just something that was just like, it didn't seem like they was meant to win it or they was playing to win it. So it was definitely dope. Him losing it in 7 seconds, of course we ain't like that, but still, I was happy for Kofi. I bought the shirts and everything. I dang near cried when Shad Gaspard, rest in peace to him, and MVP, they showed their live reaction. Somebody was showing a reaction of them seeing Kofi, a black champion, become the first full black champion, and how they cried, like they was hugging each other and crying and stuff. And now it's more special because, Shad, was a hero and saving his son and stuff like that with that, with the situation. But still, Kofi, gotta give it to Kofi. Duke the Dumpster, Repo Man. Repo Man! It's all about the Repo Man. Blackjack deal has 22. Yeah, Coco and Owen. I forgot the name of the team. Big Bronson Reed versus the B.I.G. of Joseph Alcredi. You know what? Bronson is pretty cool. There's not a lot of people that can say they took the shoes off of Roman Reigns' feet multiple times and call himself the tribal thief and stuff like that. And the guy lost a lot of weight and stuff, and he's done a lot. And he's teaming with the Bronze, with Bronson, Braun Breaker and the Bronze and stuff. But I have to give it to the C3 Ultimate Wrestling Champion, the B.I.G. of the 313, Joseph Alcredi. Not only is he a champion in C3 Ultimate Wrestling and the top champion in that, he is a powerlifting champion. Now Bronson is very, very strong, but I don't think he's as strong as the powerlifting C3 Ultimate Wrestling Champion, the B.I.G. of the 313, Joseph Alcredi. Joseph Alcredi's story is very documented in C3 Ultimate Wrestling 2 on what he has done, losing weight and stuff like that, making sure he was great. He travels the farthest to C3 Ultimate Wrestling, and he does a great job and stuff. So I'm going to choose him over Bronson because he's a multi-time champion. He's very talented and he's very good. Is it biased? Sure, but it's also the truth. And you can't handle the truth. So, yeah, definitely. Who we have? I want some more. We need more wrestlers to compare before I get up out of here. Yeah, that Ultimate Warrior Invader one almost got me. The Classic Alpha versus the Apex Predator RKO. I'm a fan of both wrestlers. I'm a fan of Classic Alpha and Randy Orton. But if you're talking about Apex, is Apex the bald-headed evil Orton, or was that the Viper? I've always been a fan of Randy, though. I'll say this. Randy kind of reminds me of me in the position of like a wrestling company. I'll say that. And I'll say it as like he was deemed the number 2, but can always be at the number 1 just like that. And I feel like at one of the companies that I wrestled for back in the day when I first started, I felt like I was the number 2, but I can always go into the number 1. So I'm going to give him, out of credit and respect to him, I'll say I'm only choosing him because I don't want to seem like I'm a narcissist. So I'm just going to say Randy. Big Boss Man versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Yeah, the Texas boy. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna go with Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam Bigelow, similar to Vader, was an agile big guy. I didn't even know that they teamed together. They teamed together in like Japan and stuff, and I wish I could find some clips and stuff. But I was a big fan of Bam Bam Bigelow's look. The man literally wore a singlet with fire on it. And he had fire flames. He had flames on his head, like tattooed on his head. At the time, that was unheard of. Like back in the day, face tattoos, let alone tattoos on your head, a lot of people wasn't doing that kind of stuff. So this dude being a wrestler and also having some missing teeth, oh my gosh. I was like, oh man, this dude want to fight somebody. So out of the two, and I like the Big Boss Man being a cop. He used to have a blue outfit on and stuff. I remember the Twin Towers, him and Akeem, the American Dream. Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. I remember that when I was younger, I used to have a Big Boss Man toy with the blue outfit on and stuff like that. And I believe it came with like a plastic belt. I believe this was when LJN was making the toys. The toys was like this small or whatever, but still. But rest in peace to both of those guys. I remember they had him as like an agent, an FBI agent and stuff. And, you know, and Attitude Era, I remember his theme song, doom, 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 yeah. And I remember him teaming with Bull Buchanan. But Bam Bam Bigelow. I think Bam Bam Bigelow, I loved his outfits. I loved that he was a great wrestler and stuff like that. And like I said, seeing his Dark Side of the Ring episode and tragic stuff about certain things, but still, I would choose Bam Bam. Bam! Bam! I got to choose Bam Bam Bigelow. His moonsault was crazy. I remember, and if you guys can, look up his match against Taz. That was pretty cool. That was a pretty good match. That was definitely a pretty good match. Both were great workers for sure. Beth Phoenix or China? China is the blueprint of a lot of strong women to this day. China, and then women like Beth Phoenix, and then even women like Bianca and Jade and stuff like that. For these women to be very strong and to show strength and beauty, right? Because I know a lot of people had jokes and stuff and was unclear about China. About was she a woman? She obviously was one, but they just to see a woman with a lot of muscles like that was just unheard of. I remember Nicole Bass. I remember her, and people would say stuff about her and how strong she was. Like, man, this lady was just very cool. I remember her storyline with Eddie Guerrero. I remember the feud that she had with Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental Belt. I remember all of that stuff. But China was the blueprint of brute force and just a woman doing it and stuff like that. And I do think that women have changed it up, obviously. But still, Beth, I liked Beth Phoenix. I used to love her song. It was so old school to me. What she called herself? The Glamazon, right? I used to love her wing chicken move, the jaded, what Jade Cargill does and stuff. I thought she was pretty cool. She was very muscular too and stuff like that. She seemed more, this sounds crazy, but she seemed more softer, obviously, than China with certain things or whatever like that. They had her being a bully. Oh man, I remember her and it was her and Natalia. They were doing the Divas of Doom thing. Oh man, that used to be so dope. I remember that she was doing comedy stuff with Santino, and they did pretty good. I remember her and Santino, they went against Mickie James and Kofi. And Kofi was the Intercontinental Champion and Mickie was the Women's Champion. And they beat them for their belts. I think that was never done before, which is kind of crazy. It was like, oh, it's a tag match for singles titles, but still, you know, and then obviously married to Edge and stuff. And then she's done some things with Edge when he was in WWE and stuff. And, you know, now, you know, I think she's just chilling with the retired life for the most part. And if they call her, they need her, they'll bring her in. But China for sure. We block people. What's up? What's up? What's going on, homie? What's going on, big dog? I don't know what that person said, but if Arshawn blocked you, you must have said something crazy. Stephanie played her sneaky game and stole from. Oh yeah, he's talking about the China thing. Yeah, a lot of people don't remember, but yeah, China and Triple H used to date. And because Paul was like big on bodybuilding too, and so was like China and stuff, and they kind of clicked with that kind of stuff. Now I can't sit here and say Stephanie took her from him, because sometimes people just want to be taken from somebody else or whatever like that. But I do think that China, she is a multi-time women's champion, but I do think that like some of the stuff was halted, because I think that like she vacated the title before she left WWE and stuff, and it was just a lot of stuff that was going on. It's bad enough people talk about Paul, but yeah, definitely that's just something else. Because I remember Vince was against her dating wrestlers and stuff like that, and she wound up not only choosing Paul but marrying him and having his kids. So shout out to them. Now, they're both going to be in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully her Hall of Fame speech isn't as long as Triple H's was. Triple H, bro. Why did you have a whole hour? No, it was actually like an hour and 36 minutes. I timed it. His Hall of Fame speech was an hour and 36 minutes. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? WrestleMania is tomorrow, sir. WrestleMania is tomorrow. Ain't enough people in the world that I got to think in an hour and 36. I ain't got to tell a story or nothing. But still. Do you think Jade will ever stop botching? Accidents happen. So with botches and stuff, accidents happen. Sometimes it's a miscue, sometimes it's a misstep and stuff like that. I've said on record many times before that Jade has gotten better as a wrestler, and I felt that if she was going to go to WWE, she would be. I figured if she would go to WWE, she'd have to learn stuff and unlearn some stuff, and I think that she's finally starting to get it. But like I said, accidents happen. Like, obviously, I hope no accidents happen. We've seen people who've been wrestling for years and are considered the best wrestlers in the world mess up, like CM Punk and stuff like that. So with that, I do think that she's going to continue to improve. APA Farouk versus Shield Roman Reigns. Shield Roman Reigns, and I'm a big fan of Farouk and the APA and stuff, but Shield Roman Reigns was just another one, because I do feel like they consider Roman as the third out the group. I remember when the group came out, when Dean Ambrose, everybody's like, oh, he's Moxley on the Independence. He's going to be a big star. He's going to be the biggest star. He's going to be the new face. Then it went to Seth Rollins, who was formerly as Tyler Black. Oh, he's going to do that. He's going to be a big star. He's going to be a big star. And then with Roman was like, people didn't know much about him except him being in FCW and stuff, and who his family was and who his dad was and who his brother was and stuff. And honestly, he made his own lane. I know at one point people was booing him, but the thing was, WWE saw that y'all loved him when he was in the Shield doing the Superman punches and all the ooh-ahs to the spears and the drive-bys and stuff. And everybody loved him, and then WWE started pushing him, and everybody was like, no, we don't want him. Boo him now. But yeah, Roman definitely for sure. Because with Farouk, I don't want to say he was past his prime during the APA, but I felt like this was just something for them to do as much as I loved it. You get what I'm saying? Do you think WWE will be sold to Saudi? If TKO wants to give it to him, they'll give it to him. They will definitely sell it to him or whatever like that. 51% is majority ownership. So if they want it, they can have it. They'll take it if they want to. If TKO finds something that they don't like about WWE or whatever like that, or they're not making that record money, it could be sold to him over there. AJ Styles versus Jericho. Ooh wee. This is a good one. Ooh wee, this is a good one. Let me cut my car off. This is a good one. I'm gonna go with AJ. I'm gonna go with AJ because shoot. Dang it. AJ. I'm gonna go with AJ. It's close. I might change my mind. I'm gonna go with AJ Styles. AJ Styles can do everything that he used to do 20 years ago. That says something into his body and his test of time and stuff like that. Jericho, I don't want to say his AEW stuff is like messed up his legacy, because his legacy can never be messed up. I know a lot of people try to say like Ric Flair ruined his legacy with his last match, but no, Ric Flair's legacy is never messed up. Hogan, the person, Terry was canceled, but Hogan was not canceled. The legacy cannot be diminished and messed with or whatever like that. You get what I'm saying? But Hogan, not Hogan, AJ Styles. I'll give it to AJ Styles slightly, but I do love Jericho because this man achieved all his goals as a wrestler, as an author, as an artist. He hosts his own cruise line with wrestling in it and stuff like that. That's close, man. It's close. Can I say a tie? If I had to choose, I probably would say AJ. Jericho or Lance Storm. I would say Jericho, only because Jericho knew how to speak and Lance did not know how to speak. And it was to the point to where when Lance was like Lance had like 4 championships in WCW and they changed it to the Canadian titles and stuff. And it was like, no, I don't want to say nobody remembers it because I remember it, but it was just like, okay, cool. People are booing y'all because you're un-American and you call yourselves the non-Americans and stuff like that. But it should have just went like a little different instead of just having Jim Duggan denounce the United States. Like, it just needed to talk. Like, he could wrestle his butt off, but he just couldn't talk. And then I remember when he was in WWE and then they had him doing like a horrible Cabbage Patch. Like that's what y'all remember that? Like, they had Lance trying to do a Cabbage Patch, but it was more like the Brussels sprout because I don't know what that was and stuff like that. And then I think WWE, they really kind of buried him when he had his match, and while he was wrestling, Stone Cold came out with a pillow and a cover talking about boring, and then he like laid down acting like he was asleep, and then the crowd started chanting boring. Yeah, man, they did that man foul, man. Like, it was hard. He couldn't even recover, man. Robert Brown in the building. What's going on? Lafayette in the building. Rent Syndicate. Yeah, any wrestler can box. Roman Reigns wasn't ready, but at the same time, he was the right choice. Roman Reigns was the right choice. And like I said, the number 2 guy can always click to being the number 1 guy, which I'm talking about Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was the number 2 guy that could click to being the number 1 guy. Dean, I felt like, was always the number 3 because when they start making people crazy and lunatics and all of this stuff, that's it. Like, that's all, you know. And then, like, look at what he's doing in AEW. And sure, he's the heart and soul of AEW and all of that stuff. Multi-time AEW world champion. But still, I felt like he hit his limit in WWE for sure. It was a reaction to a band. Can't remember the name, but they used the gay stun list, guys. Oh, Hollywood did. I think WWE is setting up for Saudi because of the AI booking. It will be easy for him. See, most of us know that when conglomerates buy conglomerates, the one that purchases the conglomerate owes somebody money, right? So we know that TKO, whatever money, whatever lender, whatever bank gave them all that money to help them purchase WWE, now they're going to try to either flip it or get their money back. Saudi Arabia, they're doing not only just sports stuff, just wrestling, but obviously boxing and MMA, UFC. They do a lot of things out there because there's no athletic commission. Like, to here, the athletic commission is so strict here. There, it could be different. Maybe they cannot have a wellness policy over there. Maybe they can do certain things. You know, a lot of people are already upset that WrestleMania 43 was going to be in Saudi Arabia. So with that being said, if Saudi Arabia is going to give them a lot of money, especially more money than what they paid for in WWE, they will sell it to them, obviously, unless they can feel like they could consistently make money with the legacy of a WWE thing. Because I remember at one point people thought Disney was going to buy them. So still, see, please, man, over Y2J. Oh, okay, man, dang, I told you, it's close. It's close. Man, that Y2J thing. You know what? I'm gonna retract. I choose Y2J over AJ. That debut was one of the craziest debuts Mind you, Chris Jericho wasn't the main eventer in WCW, but the fact that he had a crazy reaction like that was something special. The fact that he was on the microphone going blow for blow with The Rock, who at the time to me was like the best person on the microphone, was something cool. It was something dope and stuff like that. I remember the silver jacket. I remember the waterfall haircut, the ponytail. I remember. Yeah, I gotta give it to Jericho. The first undisputed champion. You know all this undisputed stuff that they doing with belts and merging them together. It went to Jericho. I know a lot of people were shocked because a lot of people thought that Austin or The Rock was going to win it, but he wound up beating these two guys and he got the belt. So yeah, shout out to him. Also, he has like one of the most popular used songs that WWE not even WWE, that wrestling companies use. Enemy. You're my enemy. Like every wrestling company has used that in their company except me. But still, I feel like AJ Styles and Chris Jericho feud was overkill because they rushed it. It was like a pit stop for AJ. I think they wanted AJ to go straight into like the main event and stuff like that. I know AJ beat him once, and I think Y2J beat him twice. Because it was like they had their match, and it was a dream match. This was when almost everybody that went against Chris Jericho, it was considered a dream match because of how great Jericho was, which I'm going to say this is why I'm choosing Y2J over AJ. Now, I had to change my mind because everybody who went against him, it was considered a dream match. When Y2J went against AJ, it was a dream match. When Jericho went against Omega in Japan, dream match. CM Punk, the best in the world, versus Chris Jericho, the best in the world at what he does. That was considered dream match. So a lot of people consistently were saying, oh, well, these are dream matches that they wanted to see. So with AJ, the dream match for AJ was him versus Shawn Michaels, which we should have got, but we never got. And also AJ versus John Cena, because they both were faces of top wrestling companies at one point. So yeah, I gotta give it. I'll give it to Jericho. Stone Cold, no, he buried him. He buried Lance. The boring chants coming out with the pillow and the blanket. Oh yeah, and people's like, oh yeah, he boring, and then they say it boring. Like, how do you recover from that? I shout out to you, prayer time. Shout out to you. Enjoy your prayer for sure. Just being nosy. Be blessed. Be blessed. Have you seen the AI wrestling? I've seen it, and I'll speak about, yes, the phenomenal one. You're not gonna make me change my mind, Harshawn. The AI stuff, we've talked about it before. I've talked about the Michael Jackson. I've talked about the Martin Luther King. I've seen stuff with Bill Cosby. I've seen stuff with Malcolm X. And like I said, it's funny, but then it's not, because it's just like these people are deceased and these people's families are online and stuff. And to see people, I understand, probably trying to make a light joke and trying to go viral, making these people who have passed away do something like wrestling and stuff like that is crazy. Because it's like, if the family gives consent, that's one thing. But this is even before AI. Like, people draw pictures, they make cartoons, they do a whole bunch of stuff. But this, it be looking so real. Like, I shared the Michael Jackson thing because it looked like Michael Jackson and stuff. And, you know, I seen the Tupac and I seen the Biggie one. For some reason, they can't do Biggie Smalls right in AI. But still, I definitely understand the controversy in it. Even a few days ago, there's a guy who took a picture with AJ Lee, and he made the AI make it look like AJ was kissing him or something. That's so disrespectful to her and her husband, and to her privacy and stuff. And she spoke about that. So that's AI stuff is definitely getting out of hand. Big versus small, the Big Show versus the career of Rey Mysterio. Ooh wee. That's a good question. Big Show versus Rey Mysterio. I got to give it to Rey Mysterio. I like the Big Show. I enjoy the Big Show. I remember when he was the Giant in WCW. I felt that WCW could have did a lot more with him. He'll attest and say that himself. He wished they would have did a lot more with him instead of having him join the NWO and losing the people not all the time, but a lot of times. Rey Mysterio, he's a guy that everybody has a love for the longest. I remember in WCW, him and Jericho, him and Dean, him and Eddie, him and Psychosis. I remember all of these matches that they had with the Cruiserweight title and stuff. It was pretty cool. I remember when he faced Kevin Nash in the David versus Goliath stuff. And I remember Ray beat him one time, and then they did the mask versus Mrs. Elizabeth's hair, and Kid Nash beat him, and he took his mask off. I remember on YouTube, that was one of the most viral videos on YouTube, was him taking his mask off. Mind you, when YouTube came out in what, 2006? That happened in like what, 2000 or something like that. So people still wanted to see this man taking his mask off. That was a big thing. That was a big thing back in the day. And then when he showed up to WWE, that was big, man. Who's that jumping out the sky? R-E-Y Mysterio. Here we go. Better not stop the door. It's black out. The boy is black out. Better tap out. Off the top rope. I remember that song. I remember his Titantron. He used to have different masks showing and stuff. I remember he used to jump up from the rail and stuff. And I used to think that was so cool. Rey Mysterio for sure. Feel like AJ Styles or Chris Jericho. Yeah, okay. So you join the Homework Club. If Disney buys, yeah, I don't think Disney gonna buy them. Disney is losing so much money. And honestly, all they had to do was make good movies. Now, I don't know. To me, I think it's pretty easy to do that if I had that kind of money and financial backing to make good movies. But for some reason, they wanted to put certain things that people didn't ask for in movies. Oh, well, let's do this and let's do that and stuff. And it's just like, why? Like, y'all did the Marvels. Nobody asked for the Marvels. Nobody, like, I hate saying it, but let's be honest. A lot of people wasn't that big a fan of Brie Larson. So what did y'all do? Let's make a movie with Brie Larson and 2 other women. Okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Disney is allergic to just consistently being successful. Chris Jericho and CM Punk wrestled 3 times in 08, if I'm not mistaken. I do remember, I think Punk beat him all 3 times. This was around the time where WWE was like, we're going to make you go against each other 3 times in a row. And it's like, you no rubber match. You're just going to beat somebody 3 times in a row. I mean, look at it. We weren't that far removed from Cody beating Seth. He beat him like 3 times. He beat him at WrestleMania. Then he beat him at what? WrestleMania Backlash. Then he beat him at Hell in a Cell. Like, damn it, Seth. Don't forget Tupac. Yep. Today, Brock Lesnar is done interest time. Yeah, I definitely saw that fall back, which is crazy. Man, he's the only wrestler I know that can recover from that. Like, people talking about he lost his aura. I don't think he lost his aura. He's still himself. Like, he's still, he just ripped his pants a couple months ago. So I don't think he really, like, lost his aura. He's just having fun and being himself. Right, Brock is supposed to be intimidating, but keeps ripping his pants and now fall. That's what I'm saying. It's funny and it's weird, and he's great at recovering because he knows he's not going to get fired. But still, I don't think he loses his aura or nothing like that. He's kind of goofy now. He's been like kind of goofy. So still, Hogan is my favorite. Shout out to you, Hypernova. Thank God Vince left. Disney Room, Marvel, and Star Wars. Yeah, I don't know about Star Wars. I can't speak about it, but after Endgame, everything just went bad. Not everything. Some stuff was good. You want to know what was good? Deadpool and Wolverine. Their shows was good. I thought WandaVision was good. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was good. I actually enjoyed it. I didn't watch Low-Key. And then, I saw, trailers to the other stuff, and I just wasn't interested in it. And like I said, I think Disney tried to go, I don't want to call it woke, but I do think that they, lost the plot on what made people want to watch Marvel movies and why they weren't successful. And they was like, I really think that they thought, oh, well, our fans is going to watch and enjoy everything. And that was just furthest from the truth. It's furthest from the truth. Best celebrity wrestler, Bad Bunny or Logan Paul. That's actually a good one. I'm going to say Paul Logan. I'm going to say Logan Paul only because he's been there consistent. I think that obviously Bad Bunny is still pretty good and stuff like that. And he'll come in when he wants to and stuff. And obviously he's the biggest music star right now currently. But I do think that Logan Paul has him. I think Logan Paul is just going to continue to get better because he's still there. He's there consistently. Like, I wish I could have had more of a muse of comparing them if Bad Bunny was wrestling more often. But he's very busy and he got a lot of stuff that he's got going on. So I will say that Logan Paul. Logan Paul does a great job as a heel. He's a bad guy. You're not supposed to like him. And that's, I know he does have other things and controversies that he did online as a streamer and stuff like that. But I think he does a great job. The Maverick does a great job. What you think, man? What you think, Rain? Roman Reigns was to go Cody or Punk at WrestleMania. I don't know. I heard the rumor that Roman and Cody was supposed to go against each other again at the next WrestleMania. I hope that's not true. We don't need to see that again. We saw it 2 times already. And they teamed up with each other. We don't need to see it no more. Let's do something else. Give it to somebody else. That street fight with. Yeah, it was crazy. And honestly, I think Puerto Rico, I believe that's what it was at. Puerto Rico is one of the reasons why they want to travel so often now. They travel more often than not now because of that crowd. They had the drone camera footage. When his music played, Bad Bunny, the way that they were just singing, going crazy and stuff like that, like the representation of the Puerto Rican wrestlers and stuff like that, Savio Vega and Selena Vega and Damien and Bad Bunny and a lot of other people like Carlito and all of them. Like people was just so happy with seeing that kind of stuff. And they was like one of the few crowds that started singing the wrestler's theme song. When people were singing theme songs and stuff like that, I think that's where it started picking up. All of a sudden, Randy Orton comes out, I have voices in my head. That had to start replaying the song twice because the track went over. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, they was definitely one of the first crowds, if not the first crowd, to where the whole crowd was singing songs. And then now it's just like a big thing to do at a wrestling show. Now, I know some people are going to bring up AEW and saying, like, AEW's been doing it first because when Chris Jericho was coming out to Judas, everybody was saying, I'm gonna come back. Judas in mama. You can have that, but I was referring more to WWE. Fatal 4-way match for Roman versus Brock versus Cody versus Punk. They don't need to do that. I don't think that's good. It's a money match, but they don't need to do that Fatal 4-way. They don't need to do it. Have Punk go against somebody he has never faced before. Have Cody go against somebody he has never faced before. Like, I think it is time to bring out the young guns. Charlotte versus Natty. Charlotte is considered to me one of the best women's wrestlers now of all time at this point. I love Gail Kim. Gail Kim is up there for me. Mercedes Moné is up there for me. Jazz is up there for me. But I do think that Charlotte is basically in a league of her own. Mind you, she is not even following. She's like over-tracking the shadow of her father, who is considered one of the greatest wrestlers of all times. So to even think about that, that's pressure in itself. But then she goes out and she shows out. She does things that her father wasn't even doing in wrestling. She has her own pizzazz to what her father did, the woos, the outfits and stuff like that. Like, I do think, like, to me, that is a lot of pressure, and I think she overcomes that obstacle. I know a lot of people get mad because they're like, oh, she won a lot of titles and she's almost a 16-time champion, about to be her dad's record. But honestly, she does her thing. She does her thing. Outside of that match against Tiffany Stratton, she does her thing. Outside of her and Nia Jax fighting, and Nia gave her a 2-piece combo with a Sprite with no ice. A Sprite with no ice, 2-piece combo. Outside of that, she up there, man. Paige, also known as Saraya, I could see her coming back to WWE, but I don't think that they would have her wrestle. I do know that obviously AEW doctors are different from WWE doctors and stuff like that. But like, looking at how she wrestled, it wasn't that good. I think her match with Britt Baker when she first came back was okay. But other than that, some of the stuff was just like sloppy and stuff. And I don't know, it's because AEW was letting her do what she wanted to do or what it was. I mean, even her title reign didn't even last long. So I prefer Natty, but I respect Char's game. Yeah, Natty, if they let her do what she's doing on the independent scene, I think people will respect her. Like, people respect her regardless. But I think they will respect her more. Like she goes in, she has the black outfit on because I know she does it in AAA, but she also does it on the independent scene. She wrestles like that, and I forgot what she calls herself. She has like a little fight team, and she's showing stuff. Mind you, she's like one of the longest tenured wrestlers in the company now, especially on the women's side because she's 40 something. But she's honestly active as well, men and women. So I wish they would let her do that more often on WWE instead of just having her lose to Becky the way they had her losing and stuff, so Maxine could win that belt. Um, this is actually a good one, Arshawn. Sprite with no ice, 2-piece combo. Sprite with no ice. Sasha Banks versus Mercedes Ultimone. Sasha Banks, landslide. First of all, I like the person who plays both, who wrestles as both, but Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks was different. The boss is better than the CEO. Now, that sounds crazy because people want to be a CEO of an actual boss, but still. Sasha Banks, it was just a different look. I thought she looked different. I thought she stood out. She stands out now, but I think she stood out more as like Sasha Banks and stuff like that. I felt that she was more disciplined in WWE. In AEW, I feel like she can do a lot of the stuff that she wants to do. Not saying she has creative control, but I do feel like it's just a little off. The wigs be off, the outfits be off, and stuff like that. And it's just like it just needs some kind of polishing, right? And I think with Sasha Banks, it was a little different. Now, her as having all of these belts and stuff like that, congrats and kudos to her because WWE ain't gonna let her do it outside of when she had, was it the Raw belt with the tag belt, and Bayley was the SmackDown Women's belt champion with the tag belt. But other than that, I do feel like they was trying to put like a ceiling on certain things with Sasha Banks. So, but Sasha Banks over Mercedes for sure. Baron Corbin, he goes by Bishop Dyer now. He is currently on the independent scene. I know he's going to be wrestling next month in like Wisconsin against Salem Crane in a company. I believe it's called ACW. But yeah, he's on the independent scene now, and he's doing like interviews and shoot interviews about the shows and stuff. So, off topic. Remember when Trunks borrowed one of Sonic moves when he beat the androids? Which Sonic move was it? I know he blasted one of them in the face, and then I forgot what he did with the other one. If we were talking about the movie, the Android movie or whatever like that, but still, man. Yeah, man, these are some great questions and qualifiers, man. I had to chill out. I had to sit here and talk about it. The Sonic spin. Oh yeah. Yeah, Dragon Ball Z and Sonic definitely got like a lot of similarities. I know that Dragon Ball Z came out before Sonic, and I do believe that the person who created Sonic, or one of the ones who helped create, said the reason why he turns into Super Sonic was a tribute to the Super Saiyans and like Dragon Ball Z. Because a lot of people think like, okay, it just came out in the 90s. That show came out like the 80s and stuff like that with Dragon Ball and all of that stuff. Like that's, yeah, like back then, man, I thought it was just something relatively new. It was just new to my eyes. But still, definitely see the similarities with the Super Sonics and the Super Hedgehogs. They got 7 Chaos Emeralds. Dragon Ball Z got 7 Dragon Balls, allegedly. The colorful characters and stuff like that. The rival with Shadow. Definitely see a lot of it. So, but thank you guys for rocking with me. WWE wasting talents in AJ career. I think AJ's still a tag champ with Dragon Lee. I don't know. I definitely got to look at my Raw recap. But I am going to leave you guys now. Thank you guys for rocking with me. I am going home. Chill out these next few off days. I hope you guys and gals have a great day. Shout out to you, Arshawn. Shout out to you, Robert Brown. Shout out to you, BCCI from India. Shout out to a lot of people, PS Gamer. All of these people. Amy was in the chat. Hypernova. Shout out to y'all. Thank y'all. Conor 82. Like I be trying to get out some love. Yeah, Amy. Shout out to Amy. Shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Stay blessed yourself, Robert Brown. No, Sean. This is Chris Classic. Stay good. No ice. Sprite with no ice.